gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's January the 10th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined today by our managing editor, Matt Shodell. And yes, this is his show. For those of you in the YouTube comments that have been demanding that Matt has his own show, this is it.
Joking.
Good morning, CaneSport is now the Matt Shodell show. And we're also joined by Stephen Wagner as we discuss the news of the day presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And I'm trying, guys. I am trying to take charge of my personal health. I am not there yet. So you guys are going to do the majority of the talking today. And we are going to start with the transfer of Purdue defensive tackle Branson Dean. And, Stephen, you and I put together a separate content item that is on the website today that you guys can check out. We talked a lot about this Branson Dean transfer. And since yesterday, when we filmed that and had the chance to talk about him, I've done some more homework on Branson Dean. And everybody I speak to about this kid, whether it be people at Purdue, down here at Miami, where he obviously was very heavily evaluated, people are excited about this pickup. And it's not that, he's going to be the next coming of Warren Sapp or anything like that. He is going to be a rotation guy in the middle. They're still going to need Leonard Taylor to become a superstar. They're still going to need Jared Harrison Hunt to finally step up and fulfill the potential that he brought to Miami seemingly 6-7 years ago. But Branson Dean is going to be a solid rotation guy this year, along with Gore from Georgia State. And I think they're also going to hope that Josh Horton, the true freshman, can come along very quickly. Matt, since I already talked to Stephen for hours about this subject, let's start with you. Your thoughts on the Branson Dean pickup?
Okay. You went 2 minutes. I thought you said you weren't going to talk. What happened? So anyway, I had a pretty good dinner last night. We ate at – no, I'm not going to do that again. Branson Dean, I talked to him. And first of all, some people don't understand where I'm coming from. They would think automatically, oh, Matt's going to not like Branson Dean because, like Gary said, might be a rotation guy, might be a starter just because defensive tackle position is just so weak aside from Leonard Taylor being the returning starter. Not a championship level player. I think we'd all agree on that. But I love this because this is what I keep telling people. These are the kinds of guys they need as stopgaps. What I don't want, and I've said it over and over, people don't seem to understand that. I don't want freshmen and sophomore, redshirt freshmen, sophomores that aren't championship level. I love graduate seniors. If you're below the 85, you don't have anyone really that you're going to get left.
So let me interrupt you for just 1 second, and I apologize. So if Branson Dean were a sophomore right now, you would say he is not a take.
I would not be happy if they took him as a sophomore, correct?
It's a guy, a 2-year starter in the Big Ten.
Yeah, because he's not, to me, based on what I know of him, he's not multidimensional. He's not championship level because he's basically, which is weird, but he's a pass rushing defensive tackle. You almost never hear that. This is not a guy who prides himself in run stopping. As a matter of fact, the selling point for Miami coaches to Branson Dean wasn't, we're going to bulk you up and turn you into a every down player in the NFL. Their pitch to him was, we're going to teach you more pass rush moves, and here's the problems you're having with your pass rush, because Branson Dean knows if he's going to make it in the NFL, which is his goal this year, if he's going to make it in the NFL, it's going to be as this weird, eclectic, unique, pass-rushing, undersized defensive tackle. There's really no other role for him in the NFL. He's not going to be a 6'2", 285-pound run stopper that Darrell Jackson was. And as a matter of fact, if you want to look at his Pro Football Focus grades from every year he's at Purdue, his grades are significantly higher every year as a pass rusher, and it's what he likes to do. I can't tell you how many times he used the words pass rush and pass rush moves, which I've interviewed a lot of defensive tackles. That's not usually how they talk. He talks like a defensive end, but he's a defensive tackle, and he'll be gone in a year. They need defensive tackle bodies. I'm fine with taking them. I am 100% fine with taking them.
Can I stop you for another minute?
I was done. So, yeah, of course.
All right, good. Let me ask you a question. If I say to you the name Mark Hagan, what do you who is he? What has he done? What do you think about Mark Hagan?
Mark Hagan?
Hagen. And I'm not telling you to go to Google and start searching it.
Are you talking about his coach or his coach at Purdue or something? Or who are you talking about?
Yeah. So you don't think it's limited? Yeah, he's the defensive line coach at Purdue. Now, let me ask you a question, because I don't want Mark Hagan's parents or anybody coming after me. But let me ask you a question. If I say Jason Taylor, I'll even say Rod Wright. Okay, these guys played in the National Football League. Jason Taylor is a Hall of Famer. Why is it so foolish and so outworldly to think that these guys can make Branson Dean a better football player? Like, it's not.
You're missing a key point, which is common sense. Gary Ferman, I'll share the common sense with you. Coaches
are pandering to your fan club.
If my
fans already typing on the YouTube comments. Matt Shodell is so right. Gary has no common sense.
If my fan club likes this, if I even had a fan club, which I don't, but if I did, they would only like this because they don't like you. Because what I'm going to say is something that I think you're missing, which is just fairly common sense and obvious. College football coaches view themselves as teachers, and rightfully so. These are college-age student athletes. These are not professional players who have their own lives and do all this stuff on their free time to get ready for NFL games. They're students. They need to be in the classroom. They need to learn how to live life, aside from being great football players, which is why they're getting free admission to Miami. But because they're teachers, think about it this way. If you have the same teacher every single year, you're not going to learn a lot of different things. You're going to learn the same thing over and over again, which is fine. They can reinforce what they want to see from you, but they're not going to teach you a lot of new things. Jason Taylor opened up Branson Dean's eyes when they sat down with him and watched film. He told Branson Dean things that Branson Dean didn't know. That's why Branson Dean told me he picked Miami. He said he didn't know he was going to go to Miami until he walked out of that meeting with Jason Taylor and with Rod Wright telling him how bad he was, saying, look at what you're not doing. Look at what we can teach you. Look at what we can teach you, because you're not doing anything right from our perspective. You can be so much better. And I'm
giving the microphone to Steven.
I'm exaggerating.
This is getting beyond ridiculous.
I'm exaggerating slightly. Not any good. I'm exaggerating slightly, but that's what they said. They said he literally said they critiqued me. He expected to walk in there and they'd be like, "You're amazing. We need you here. Here's why we need you here." No, they said this is how we can make you better. This is what you're not doing well, that we can help you improve. That's what they told him, Gary. Whether you like it or not, I exaggerated a little bit because that's what I do. You know, that's my thing. I exaggerated and said they told him he was terrible. Of course, I didn't tell him he was terrible. They did critique him. They did tell him how they could help him. That's what sold him, because he needs a new teacher, and he realized it when he sat down with those two guys.
Steven, it should have sold him. You have the opportunity here in your final year of college to go get tutored by Jason Taylor, Rod Wright, and let's not forget Coach Salavea in the middle, who also played many, many, many years in the National Football League at defensive tackle. Your thoughts on this whole mess?
I 100% think that if you're a 23, 24-year-old kid and you've got these NFL aspirations and you have walked out of a meeting where you kind of do hear how bad you are and you just kind of got ragged on for, the last 30 minutes by guys who have played at this level, I'm probably thinking, well, shoot, maybe they actually do know something I don't know. Maybe there is a reason that they need to go here. Maybe it's kind of like the reverse psychology thing. I'm just going to keep saying no until finally, I end up convincing myself to say yes. That's the only way that I can kind of view that. As far as Dean himself goes as a player, I agree with Matt in that you do need stop guys on this roster. You need depth, period, because defensive tackle has been really, really weak. And I don't like the idea of leaning on freshmen and redshirt freshmen and sophomore defensive linemen who have, at best case scenario, maybe 2 years of playing experience. We've seen programs across the country learn that leaning on freshmen and sophomore linemen is never a good idea. In large part just because a lot of these kids haven't adjusted to the requisite level of physicality that they need to be at once you get to the Division I level. Their bodies need time to develop, and the further away you get from the ball, the less physically challenged you're going to be on every single down, and the more of an opportunity that you're going to have to play. So I would rather not put Joshua Horton in that position as a true freshman if you can avoid it. I would love to see Joshua Horton redshirted, and then maybe he gets like a few snaps his freshman year, some snaps his sophomore year, and then his junior year, he really starts turning into that player that we would like to see. But I think Dean's real value is the fact that he brings this level of experience whenever the team as a whole is going to be this young. And I kind of talked about this a little bit in some stuff that we looked at. He's a guy who's coming in with 2 years of starting experience on a Purdue team that reached the Big Ten championship game and is an upset over Michigan away from going to the Rose Bowl. He's played in big games. Say what you will about the whole concept of having big game experience and whether or not that actually matters, but he's an older guy in a locker room with a team that is going to be really, really young. And, as we're seeing, Miami invested so heavily in this year's recruiting class, which is absolutely nothing shy of elite. Worst case scenario, this team is probably still a top 5 recruiting class if other teams end up adding kids before National Signing Day in February. But this is a team that's going to rely really heavily on this year's 2023 class. And is there a lot of talent there? Absolutely. But is there a lot of inexperience there? Also, yes. And so you need to offset that inexperience with some experience, and you're getting a veteran in Branson Dean. So I see a lot of his value as coming off the field. You need that veteran locker room presence. And I don't think we've seen a championship level team that hasn't had that veteran locker room presence. I mean, even in the, let's take a basketball analogy here for a little bit. Whenever the Warriors were really starting to get on those tears with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers really hit the market. Who was the glue guy that was holding them all together? It was Andre Iguodala, a 79-year-old veteran who just kind of, was a stop guy and had sort of a limited role. I think that these veteran guys are severely underrated, and I think that there's absolutely a place for a guy like Branson Dean, not just on the field, but in the locker room especially.
All right, so we've got the whole Branson Dean thing broken down in several different stories. You guys, if you haven't read them, I encourage you to do so. Kind of takes a look at this thing from every angle imaginable. I want to shift gears now. Because it's coincidentally, but it's very applicable now today. Our CaneSport 30 for 30 series, ranking the top 30 Canes with 30 or more reps of experience, moves to number 24, Jared Harrison Hunt today. And he is obviously going to be a key figure in this whole defensive tackle thing, Matt. Take us to Jared Hunt and how you think he will fit in this equation.
I've heard some things that I'll share in a minute, but I actually think people are going to think I'm crazy. I think Jared Harrison Hunt will start. I think that there's a reason why Joe Salavea wasn't in the film room with Branson Dean, and they sent Branson Dean into the film room with the defensive ends coach and the defensive ends Hall of Famer, because I think Branson Dean's going to be pretty much a third down tackle. I think that's how they're treating him. It's fairly obvious at this point to me that I don't think they view him as an every down tackle against a physical offensive line.
Wait a minute. It's not possible that Coach Salavea is on vacation?
No, because Coach Salavea showed him around the whole weekend. I talked to Branson Dean at length, okay? He was showed around. Joe Salavea picked him up at the airport, was with him the whole time, but wasn't doing the film study, leading the film study with him, okay? Because they know that he wants to be a pass rusher from defensive tackle. Like, that's his thing. That's what he wants to do. That's what he's best at. And if you're a smart Miami Hurricanes coach, You want your players to do what they're best at. That's his skill. His best skill is rushing the passer as a defensive tackle, which sounds super weird, but that's what he is. Jared Harrison-Hunt, and I'll just share this because Jared's not going to watch this. Nobody watches this show, except for Stephen Wagner now is being forced to watch it. So I was told last year that Jared Harrison-Hunt is one of these guys who just doesn't work hard. And I don't know if that changed during last fall because we didn't get a chance to watch any of the practices, and I didn't really keep a close eye on Jared Harrison-Hunt, honestly, previous to that either. I wasn't watching the backup defensive tackle at that time just to see if he was running through every rep or not. I had bigger problems, I won't name all my problems. I have a lot of them. But Jared Harrison-Hunt is a guy who has everything going for him. You saw it his first year at Miami when he blocked a punt. He blocked a field goal against Clemson that was returned for a touchdown. When he had, I want to say 3 or 4 sacks his first year. Second year, he wound up starting 8 games, didn't have a big impact. Head wasn't on straight. Again, not working hard enough. What I keep hearing about him is the consistency is missing. The hard work aspect is missing. But this is the year. If he wants to make NFL money at some point, this is it. Like, this is his chance. Darrell Jackson is gone in the wind, man. And that's a whole other situation that was ridiculous what happened with Darrell Jackson. I mean, if Darrell Jackson wants to go to FSU, just go to FSU. Don't come back here and start, talking to Miami again and then go back to FSU again and start blowing up with FSU. The whole thing was ridiculous. But Darrell Jackson's gone. Jared Harrison-Hunt, to me, is the second best tackle on this roster right now in terms of what he can accomplish athletically, physically, as an every down tackle. If he doesn't start this year, it's because he's just, again, a guy who won't work hard, which would be
Ian Leonard Taylor.
He should be the starter. He's that good.
He's potentially that good.
Right, if he works hard.
And it's time on this football team for the guys that are potentially good to start being good. And I'll put Darrell Jackson in that category.
Oh, boy.
Who is now
gone. I don't know if I told you, Gary. He's gone.
He's taking his act now to Tallahassee. He wasn't great last year. And for him to pull all this crap is just so indicative, Matt, of what is wrong with this Miami football program right now, what Mario Cristobal is trying to fix. And he is better off, even though I would say Darrell Jackson is potentially a better defensive tackle than, say, a Branson Dean, for example. But he's better off going to war with these guys, maybe with a different scheme now than a guy like Darrell Jackson, who's going to eat up 2 guys on the interior. I think they're better off going to war with these guys that want to be here, that are all in on this program.
What Darrell Jackson did is the equivalent of if Stephen Wagner told you tomorrow, I've covered Miami enough. I'm going back to New Mexico. I'm going to cover the Lobos and go back to that. What did you tell me? The arena loses its power and they still keep playing, Stephen? I don't know what that story was you were telling us. But
it was New Mexico State. And yes, true story. Middle of the, I think it was the first media timeout. They're playing their biggest rival in state, basically the equivalent of Miami FSU. First media timeout, arena loses power. They play the whole thing with the backup lights on. And as we're interviewing the coach in the hallway, because we can't get into the media room because there's no light, there's no power in there. The generator's literally only keeping the lights on. A stadium worker comes up to us and says, "Hey, so you guys have like 5 minutes to get out of here before like the backup generator shuts off. Like, this thing's about to go, man."
Yeah, so it would be like if Stephen went back to that. If Stephen said, "I want to go to a place that has no lights and the basketball team plays in the dark. That's what I want to go back to." That's what Darrell Jackson did to Miami. He's going back and forth, and that's it. He went to a place now where how many 5 guys do they have across from campus in Tallahassee? 0. So he's got nothing going for him anymore. Sorry, Darrell. No more 5 guys for you.
They do have Whataburger, though. They do have that going for them. I'm a little bit disappointed there's no Whataburger down here.
No, there's not. There's a lot, though. Yeah, I don't think you'll miss it. All right, well, couple other things on the website today. We have an inside story on how the Hurricanes won over UCF transfer Matt Lee. And, that was a Zuby story. Zuby's in transit this morning and was unable to come on the show. But I heard that the Matt Lee celebration in Orlando after he got back from his Miami visit might have been like spring break-esque, okay? Like, this thing lasted like 24 hours. And Azubi, poor Azubi, well, I'll just tell the story. Azubi knows Matt Lee from his previous life, and nothing to do with him coming to the Hurricanes. And he talked to Matt Lee before Matt Lee's announcement, and Matt Lee, told him, "Hey, Azubi, how are you, buddy?" The whole thing. And I've got you. Well, we'll do it as soon as I'm announcing at 5, and after that, I will give you the interview. I'm not talking to any other reporters. You will have the exclusive so that you could go back to Steven, Matt, and Gary at CaneSport and tell them that you are the man because you got the exclusive on the new big Miami commitment transfer. Okay. How much time do you think passed before Azubi actually did get that interview that Matt Lee promised him? Good, Matt. Guess.
Oh, I'm guessing how
many hours do you think it took?
I happen to know, so why don't you have Steven guess? I mean, I'm in the loop.
Steven, what do you think?
I'm going to go 96 hours.
It was close.
No, not 96 hours.
It was like 25.
It hasn't even been 96 hours now, Steven.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
No, but it did take a day and a half.
And I think the reason was that the celebration was epic up in Orlando over, I can only imagine the NIL deal that he was able to negotiate with John Ruiz after declaring his love to go to University of Miami. But yes, Azubi did finally get the interview. It's a really cool story, and we encourage you guys to take a look at it on the website this morning. All right, a couple more things to talk about today before we're done. But first, let's hear from our friends at LifeWire.
Hey, Jordan, are you feeling all right?
Hey, you sure you good?
Hey man, how you feeling?
I feel really dizzy.
Do you have a life wallet?
I do have Life Wallet.
Program activated.
Hey, Jordan, you all right?
Actually, I'm great because I have my Life Wallet.
I played that one on purpose. I
told
played it on
you-
purpose because Daryl Jackson was in it.
Yeah, but I told you before that ad's not appropriate, and now it's even less appropriate with DeMar Hamlin's situation. You got to stop running that ad. Like, just
DeMar-
they never should have made that ad.
Talking about. First of all, you don't do your homework. DeMar Hamlin had his Life Wallet, okay? And he now, in 1 week, has gone from that, and he's out of the hospital and back living a normal life because he had his Life Wallet.
Yeah, by the way, DeMar Hamlin was a Miami recruit. I remember talking to him. I know he picked Pittsburgh, but I mean, what a great story. But I've never been a fan of that particular ad, so whatever.
But he had his Life Wallet. Just ask John Ruiz. He'll tell you.
It's not
DeMar
funny. He doesn't have his
Hamlin
Life
had
Wallet.
his Life Wallet.
It's a miracle he survived. Let me tell you,
Tucked into his jersey
I
on the
ran
field that night in Cincinnati.
So
He
this
had
is
his Life
actually,
Wallet.
if you stop talking for 2 minutes, I ran into a doctor at a party recently, and he's involved with NFL teams, and he told me, I didn't understand how it worked. I don't know if you guys know this. I didn't know this, but apparently that injury that happened, if you call it an injury, I don't know what you call it, but what happened is
It's not an injury.
yeah, so you get your chest hit by a helmet, basically. But the doctor, this guy told me that the heart rhythm had to be at the exact wrong spot or right spot, whatever you want to call it. At the exact, how the heart rate goes up and down, it had to be exact at that exact spot when that hit happened. It was a 1 in a million. Even if that hit had happened, it was a 1 in a million that the heart rate would have been that exact moment when this type of situation happened.
wow,
It
we
was
never
such
seen
a
it before.
crazy injury, and the doctors that were there did an amazing job. And it's remarkable. It's a remarkable story because when you saw that happen, and when you started researching what it meant that it happened like that, the percentages were not with DeMar at all. They really were not.
I mean, they resuscitated him. They on the field. I assume.
Twice.
I imagine.
But there could have been brain damage. There was 10 years ago when they last did a study on this, there was a 20-something% survival for this type of injury. And it's normally a baseball injury. There's another sport it occurs with. I can't remember if it's lacrosse. It's not typically a football injury, but even now it's 50-50. Certainly having the personnel there, having the availability of immediate CPR and the shock to shock the heart back into a rhythm was huge. But even with that, it was going to be a 50-50 deal. I mean, it's remarkable that he got out of the hospital and that he's doing great.
All right. Well, also on the website today, we have our Week 17 highlights, Miami Hurricanes in the NFL. Make sure you check that out. We're also constantly updating our Hurricanes portal tracker. So check that out every day as well. But finally, I want to talk, Stephen, about a story that you put together from your time last week in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl. And you spoke to a couple of these future Canes that are going to be playing together in Coral Gables about Cormani McClain, who was their classmate, who is the only guy who has not signed his letter of intent to this point. And I don't think he's ever signing the letter of intent. We'll see. But you had a chance to talk to these guys and get their viewpoints. Give us a quick synopsis of what you found out.
Yeah, so it kind of seems like everyone is sort of scratching their heads a little bit, but they do want him in Miami. That much is clear. I think it was Ray Joseph. He basically gave a pitch. He said, he said that he would say that this would be his pitch because he hasn't actually had a chance to talk to Cormani, nor has Samson Okinola or Mark Fletcher. But Ray Joseph said that his pitch to Cormani would be, hey, man, we need you out here. We can win with you. We know that you're a special talent. We know that you can lock defenders down on an island. We know that you are that guy who can help take us over the edge. And we know that you're a guy that we can win national championships with. So, come on down to Coral Gables. Then Samson Okinola also said, he hasn't really had much of a chance to talk, and he would like him to be here, but it really is one of these deals where everybody has to follow their own journey. And Mark Fletcher basically said the same thing, saying a lot of stuff along the lines of, he hasn't really had a chance to, he hadn't really had much of a chance to interact with him. But this is a stressful moment for him in his life, and they all recognize kind of, the weight that he has on his shoulders and making sure that he makes the right decision because, Samson and Mark were guys who really came down to the last week of their recruitment, where they were going, where they were ultimately going to end up, and they had a lot of schools after them. So I think they were definitely sympathetic, to that. But more generally, there's definitely a feeling that they want Cormani in Coral Gables.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. I don't see that one ending any better than Darryl Jackson did. But I think, I sit around and I say, why is Mario putting himself through this? Why does he want these kids? I can just get the impression Mario is not fazed by any of this nonsense. Like, you don't want to come be with us, play with us? Next. There's another day of work tomorrow. I'm still going to get up at 4:00. There are other good players out there, and we're not going to sit here and stress out over, these individual prima donnas that want to play all these games. So, we'll see what happens with Cormani. I don't like the tea leaves, but we're not going to worry about it, man. There's other good players out there. All right, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us. If you like this show, like our YouTube channel, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. Helps us with the algorithms, helps us grow our audience, and we really appreciate it. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please join our community of Canes fans and become one. Your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every single day. So for Stephen Wagner, Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you once again, everybody. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.